All right, guys, so let's talk about passive voice. All right, passive voice is the sentence that we usually want to try to not write in. We don't want to write passively, we want to write actively. But let's look at some passive voice sentences to know what we need to avoid. Now, first of all, passive voice is where the subject in the sentence, so in every sentence, the subject is supposed to clearly show that he or she or it is doing the action in the sentence. That's how we know it's the subject, right? We find the verb, we ask who's doing that action, that's our subject. Passive voice can make that a little bit confusing. It makes it seem like the verb is acting upon the subject, right? Like the subject is receiving the action, which is not okay. Let's look at this sentence right here. At dinner, 6 wings from Wingstop, probably some lemon pepper, barbecue, were eaten by Mr. Shanklin. 6 wings were eaten by Mr. Shanklin. Now, what's wrong with this sentence? First of all, it's too long, which you guys will get to in a second. Okay, it's too long, and we want to keep our sentences brief and concise. We want to give the subject and the verb, direct object. Boom, we're done. Right? This one is a little bit long. It's also a little confusing because where's my verb in this sentence? Eaten, right? Eaten. And let's throw in our to be verb as well. So were eaten is my verb. Now, how do we find the subject of a sentence? We find the verb and we ask who or what is doing that action. If you were to say who or what was eaten by Mr. Shanklin, you're going to come up with the answer of 6 wings probably, right? Which could be confusing. You might think 6 wings is the subject of the sentence, but the wings aren't doing anything in this sentence. Their action is being received upon by the subject. Who is doing the eating? Eating is the question, right? That answer is Mr. Shanklin. Mr. Shanklin is doing the eating, but it's a little confusing. It's at the end of the sentence. It's after the verb. It's a little confusing. This should actually probably read, at dinner, Mr. Shanklin ate 6 wings, right? And then we can clearly find the subject, know the direct object, and we're good to go. Passive voice is not how we usually want to write. Let's look at the example sentences that you guys have, and we'll come back to this. The example sentences say, the ball was thrown by LeBron. I could probably just turn that into LeBron threw the ball, right? The basket was shot by LeBron. I could probably just turn it into LeBron shot the ball. And the score was made by LeBron. I could say LeBron scored, okay? Now, there's a couple of things that passive voice has that you guys will look at in a second, once again, but let me show you on this board. Passive voice has a couple of things that you will notice, okay? A lot of times in order, okay? Usually in this order. We have, at dinner, 6 wings were eaten by Mr. Shanklin. You're going to have a double verb. So you have your to be verb here with were, okay? My marker's not working. Were, and eaten, right? Were eaten. Okay, you might have a is instead of were, you might have are, you might have was, okay, but you're gonna have a to be verb here and then another regular verb or past tense verb next to it, right? And then you're gonna, let's get to the very important part. You're gonna have the word by, okay? Letting us know that this person is writing passively by telling us who it was written or eaten or acted upon by. And then you're going to have the noun that is being discussed, which is actually the subject of the sentence, the person doing the action, right? Boom. That's passive voice. We have our direct object usually coming first, okay, the item or noun that's being acted upon. Then we have the double verb, by, and the noun, okay? That's passive voice. It's too long, and there's a lot of elements that go into it when we could just make it short and sweet. All right, let's look at some other forms of passive voice verbs on the next slide, and then we'll get to active voice.